What's going on, everybody? B Scott here with you, and I'm with
Godzilla.
And on today's show, we'll be going over some must-have wide receivers for fantasy football ahead of the 2021 NFL season. These are 4 receivers that we're going to be looking at that we think have the potential to finish as the wide receiver 1 overall.
Gotta have them.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs.
Third wheel. Drop the logo.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going to go over some must-have wide receivers. These are wide receivers that we think could finish as the number 1 wide receiver overall.
I'm telling you, if you ain't got them on your team, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff, comment. If there's players you want to hear, let us know. If we did a bad job, let me know. I mean, we're looking at all the information. We're giving it to you for you to judge and make those adjustments for yourself. So, let's dive right into it. First player we're going to look at, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, first player coming off the board, wide receiver number 4. This is a guy, in my opinion, you got to have on your fantasy team. Last season, finished 4th overall in fantasy points, number 1 in air yards, number 1 completed air yards, number 1 in red zone, or deep targets, I'm sorry. All the metrics are there for Calvin Ridley to potentially be the wide receiver 1 overall. Now, is he going to be able to trump Devontae Adams' 12 to 15 touchdowns? That's going to be hard to say. Is he going to be able to trump Tyreek Hill's just big playability, period? That's going to be hard to manage. But if you're looking at a wide receiver that you're going to be able to get, he's coming off the board as the number 4 wide receiver that could potentially finish as the number 1. Calvin Ridley's your man. 90 receptions last year. Over 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. 9 touchdowns last year, 9 touchdowns the year before, 10 his rookie season. This is a guy I think, albeit Julio Jones is going to be gone. Hopefully Matt Ryan doesn't take the dip here, but you know Calvin Ridley can pick it up last season. He played very well even when Julio Jones wasn't on the field. So 8 games with 100-plus yards receiving. I just think Calvin Ridley here is a shoo-in to be a potential top 3 receiver.
I think he can possibly be that if he gets the volume. You got to understand that a lot of these stats that he has comes with Julio Jones on that team. You know what I mean? And also Julio Jones not on that team. Like, you know, he gets hurt and Calvin really just fills a certain kind of hole. And that's part of the game plan for the team. You know what I'm saying? So this is a whole new game plan for him to be the alpha there. Can he really do that? I'm not so sure. I think it's going to take a lot of receptions, but can he finish in the top 5 receivers? I think he can. You know what I mean? Can he finish the number 1? I'm not so sure. He's going to have to take a whole nother leap. What gives me the hope that he can, if you look at the strength of schedule for the season, the quarterback situation, you know what I'm saying, 13 strength of schedule, the wide receiver position, number 11. So if he can get the volume, he can finish wide receiver 1 all day long, but it's going to take a lot. This is a whole new offense. They're obviously, close to dead last in this league. So you're going to expect a lot of uptick in the passing game. Like we said already, you know what I mean? There's an RB2 in that backfield as a starter, Mike Davis. So how often are they going to rely on him to be, you know, producing a lot of offense for that team? And I'm not so sure. So right now, yeah, I got Calvin Ridley as one of these guys that I got to have coming off the board. You're thinking about where you drafted him at in the second round, in the middle of the second round. The only option that is going to be right here is the other guys that we're talking about, and maybe Hopkins, which is probably the last end of that elite level.
Obviously, Calvin Ridley being on a terrible team, that helps the numbers, and he could see a huge target uptick, but he's already 143 targets coming out last season, so 150, 160 is possible here. Close to 100 yards, or 100 receptions, in my opinion. Close to 1,500 yards. And I think he can get close to 10 touchdowns once again. So, just draft Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, period.
DK Metcalf. Coming off the board as a wide receiver number 6. Had a huge season last year. 10 touchdowns, 130 targets. He has potential to finish as the wide receiver 1. Honestly, down the stretch, in the last 4 games of the season, 20 total receptions, 184 yards, 1 touchdown. Those are his numbers through the last 4 weeks. To be considered, he still finished as the wide receiver 7 with those kind of numbers down the stretch. I think every year you've seen a progression with DK. Third-year breakout potential right here, and I think 10 touchdowns is a shoo-in. I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to be very reliant on the pass game like they always have been. I think DK could finish as a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, we look at Pete Carroll's offense, and they've always been a run-first kind of offense. And we looked at the numbers lately in Chris Carson's receiving numbers, and they've gone up a little bit. This is the era in the first year of the let Russ cook era. You know what I'm saying? 558 pass attempts last year, most in his career. And this guy DK is on this field, who's a man at a 96.7 snap share. You know what I mean? I think there's nothing that says to me that he's going to regress at all. I think if anything, he's going to do a little bit better. And, you know, 83 receptions for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's a lot to say that, you know, he's going to do better than that.
Yeah.
I think the ceiling for him is out the roof. You know what I mean? I love DK Metcalf. Go get you some Donkey Kong, period.
Draft DK Metcalf with some confidence, especially knowing that you could be drafting a running back early on. DK could be your number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson coming off the board as the wide receiver number 8.
The rookie and the vet.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,400 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, 125 targets. Honestly, third in the league in receiving yards with 40 less targets on average than the number 1 and number 2 guy.
And he didn't start the first 3 games.
Yeah. This is a guy that absolutely could finish as the wide receiver 1 potential here. Like with many of these guys, it's hard to dethrone necessarily Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, but this is a guy, if the touchdown upside can uptick, 7 touchdowns, averaged 15.9 yards per reception last year. That led all receivers in the top 20 for yards per reception. The floor is absolutely safe with this guy, and I think his ceiling is the wide receiver 1 overall.
Yeah, and I say so because, you know, you look at this team in the last 2 years, and you have Adam Thielen, who's been a monster in the last, 5 seasons that he's played there. You know what I'm saying? But we've also seen the same thing going on with him that we've seen with Keenan Allen. In the last 2 seasons, 8.7 yards per reception, 8.6 yards per reception. So it does show that he's in a decline a little bit. Last year, most touchdowns in his career, though.
Yeah.
14 touchdowns, all but 1 coming in the red zone, though. 10 in the 10 and 7 in the 5-yard line. So, you look at these packages and what they're doing, and they run a lot of 12 personnel inside the red zone. And I think with Dennison being in the box and seeing this thing going on, he was like relieved of his job or whatever, as the running back offensive line coach. Now he's in the box, you know what I'm saying? I think Justin Jefferson will be more in these red zone packages the way Thielen used to be in the past. I think his touchdown ceiling can go up from here. I honestly do. He's a dynamic talent, and, a lot of fantasy owners are going to have to beat me to get Justin Jefferson off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin Jefferson down the stretch. 5 of 6 games, 10-plus targets. Period. He really picked it up. We talked about it. You talked about it early on. The first couple games didn't start. You didn't see a lot of targets. Now, there was a few games where he didn't see a lot of targets. That's my worry. But ultimately, in this offense, picking it up down the stretch, he should be able to look at probably 130 to 150 targets here. And if the touchdowns can obviously uptick, it's almost inevitable that he's going to finish inside the top 5 of wide receivers.
Speaking of the leagues, we're talking about a guy in the last 5 to 10 years who has been the number 1 and 2 wide receiver in football, and we all know this man, Quinn Torres. Other else better known, Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Moved to a new team with Ryan Tannehill, and Tannehill has been nothing but elite since leaving this Adam Gase system that he has been in. You know what I mean? Yes, they do run the ball a lot, but last year alone, number 9 in air yards, number 7 in pass yards, number 2 in fantasy points per dropback. Do I need to continue? Number 3 in true completion rate, number 5 catchable pass rate, number 2 in true pass rate, period. You added the elite talent to already A.J. Brown on that team. Man, this is trouble for that division. I think that Julio Jones is going to beast, and I think, we've seen Julio Jones right now. He's doing cone drills, and he looks amazing. He wasn't doing this in Atlanta. This guy looks amazing, and I think that the 15 is just not worthy of where he's being ranked at right now. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. I think that this guy can honestly, he's number 7 in my rankings at the wide receiver position, and I honestly think that Julio can finish as the number 1.
Yeah, I think absolutely. The talent is there. You know it is. The injury last year. People like to focus on what happened last, and what you remember of Julio Jones is a hamstring.
Is a huge thing.
That's what I'm saying. So what you remember now is Julio Jones. Hamstring hindered him all year.
But also remember I told you.
Julio Jones, last season, even though he was hurt, still finished with 15 yards per reception. In his career, We know that it's a perennial 15 yards per reception. That's what he's averaged on his entire career so far. So if you gave him the numbers at looking at 120 targets or so, Corey Davis vacates 92 targets.
And he sucks.
Exactly. 900 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jonnu Smith, no longer there. That's 8 touchdowns from the tight end position. Now, yes, Ferkser, I think, can manage some of those, but I think Julio possibly picks some of those up.
Hashtag league winner.
Yes, of course. 120 targets, close to 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's a safe play for Julio. That would have landed him as the wide receiver 12 last season, and that's on the safe floor. So Julio Jones absolutely could be through the roof here. I think A.J. Brown gets a little boost because I think they're going to be similar, and there's no way to stop both of them.
It's going to be crazy, man.
So draft Julio Jones, absolutely stud. A steal that you can get in the 3rd round?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 4th round of drafts?
3rd, 4th, wherever they got him drafted.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
So that's been our 4 must-have wide receivers ahead of the 2021 NFL season. 4 guys that we think could finish as the number 1 overall wide receiver and must-have players that you should be drafting
Gotta have
in your leagues this year. So if you like the video, don't forget, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff. Comment, talk to us, let us know what you want to hear in the future, and we'll get back to you. Very active in the comment section. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott,
G.O.D.
and we out.
Yeah.